Welcome to another episode of Touring the AFC South. I'm your host, Mike Patton. And on this episode, we're going to be talking a little bit more than just the AFC South. We're going to be talking about the playoffs. Yes, everyone is locked in to the NFL playoffs, which, last weekend was definitely one that had everybody's blood pumping and, definitely had everyone glued in. And I figured I would bring someone in that has a lot of knowledge about the NFL, of course, obviously, and to me, one of the best podcasts out there. That's the Domonique Foxworth Show, and none other than Domonique Foxworth. What's going on, man?
Bro, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the kind words. Happy to be here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Greatly appreciated as well. And of course, we got to talk about these playoffs, but the biggest thing we're going to talk about in terms of to start off the show, got to talk about that upset win of the 49ers in Philly. I mean,
oh man,
honestly, I don't think anyone really had the 49ers winning that game because literally they're down to their fourth, fifth, and sixth linebacker, if not worse than that. You probably any average person probably could not name one person on the defense. Probably couldn't name one receiver as well, but yet they found a way to win that game. What most impressed you about that win in Philly?
Well, I mean, I like that they just kept, and this is probably part of the fact or the reason why is because they felt like they were in a desperate position, but I like that they just kept shooting, man. Like that was the juxtaposition between what the 49ers were trying to do offensively, kind of aggressive trick plays, taking shots downfield, turn the ball over. That's all right. We get it back. We're going to take another shot downfield. Like I respected that. I wouldn't have necessarily suggested to keep challenging Quinyon Mitchell with tight ends, but backup tight ends at that. Like it wasn't even Kittle. He was hurt. That was both interceptions were just them throwing it at Quinyon. So it's very weird. But other than that, I was really impressed with them attacking downfield.
Now I will say that I was at the beginning of the game, they actually went at him with Demarcus Robinson, which I was kind of like, okay, what are we doing here?
That was wild, but at least it was a receiver and it worked.
Right. Yeah, it kind of threw me off a little bit there, but I was like, okay, Brock Purdy and his irrational confidence at that point in time.
But I mean, it's paid off, man. It's paid off for him and them. It's a nice balance, I think, to Kyle Shanahan, who kind of has a playoff conservative reputation.
Yeah, definitely. He stepped out of that box for real. But of course, they did win. They do go on to face their NFC West rival, Seattle Seahawks. So this week, what are the chances you give them to win in Seattle?
I mean, they got dominated last time. Like, they only lost 13-3, but they got dominated. And the other game was the first game of the year when everybody was healthy. It was a whole different thing. And they won with like a weird kind of fluky catch. And then the Seahawks marched right down the field and Bosa got a sack fumble. You're not getting a sack fumble from Bosa this game. He ain't there. You're not going to have Fred Warner. You're not going to have any nearly amount of players that you want. The Seahawks aren't completely healthy, but they're much healthier, and the defense got better all year long. So, yeah, I guess you can look at it a couple of different ways. I think that the 49ers obviously have a chance. Like it's the NFL, everyone's close. I think no one thinks the Seahawks no one thinks the 49ers are better than the Seahawks, but could they pull off a game if they play like high variance football where aggressive, go for it on fourth downs, take chances, run trick plays, essentially to run back the same game plan they just had. And honestly, like the Seahawks might also be a conservative offense. They were last time, the same way that the Eagles kind of played into the 49ers' hands with that conservative style. You could see the last time the 49ers and the Seahawks played that the Seahawks also were very conservative. After that first drive and Sam Darnold kind of flubbed that red zone opportunity, they ain't let him challenge down the field again for the rest of the game. But unfortunately, 49ers couldn't stop the run, so there was no reason for him to do it. So if they could commit to stopping the run and try to force Sam Darnold into a turnover, one of those turnover games, then they got a chance.
Yeah, we could see some Minnesota playoff version of him, perhaps, or like Bomani Jones says, same Darnold. We could see same Darnold.
We could. Yeah, it's been like that for a while, honestly. Like since about mid-season, he's been struggling. So I don't know. With the exception of that he had a good like fourth quarter, I guess, against the Rams. Other than that, but the crazy part is he was the best quarterback in football for the first 8 games. It felt like his QBR was off the charts, and JSN was the best receiver. JSN's still cold as hell, but Sam Darnold ain't quite. You can just see the nervousness, or not nervous, it's the wrong word, but like he just feels kind of concerned about turning the ball over when he drops back.
Definitely does. It's going to be interesting. Also, it'll be interesting. Of course, Fred Warner trying to play, but Kyle Shanahan came out and said he's not going to be playing in this game. So it'd be insane if he did play in this game. But no.
Yeah, I had the same thing, and my co-host Charlie before we did the show was kind of like, "Oh, you never know. Like these guys, it's like I know these guys are different, but I saw it. I watched it happen. It went the wrong way. Like that ain't." Just bounce back from that. And I know they're saying maybe next week. I don't know, man. Like I don't want to bet against anybody. I also don't want nobody rushing back and making it even worse, especially Hall of Fame talent like Fred Warner.
Right. But it's the same guy that shot up his ankle all last year and played on a broke ankle. So you never know.
I mean, you can't. You can't count these guys out. Football players are crazy.
One guy. Yeah, you definitely. One guy you can't count out when it comes to potentially in Philadelphia is AJ Brown. Now, of course, there has been the talk about AJ Brown and is he going to go? Is he not going to go? Things like that. But, to me, I think AJ Brown gets traded. And why is it that I have New England on the other line?
Oh, yeah. He might want to go back to Tennessee. Like, come on home. They need some weapons for my guy, Cam. No, I mean, that makes sense. It's a good spot for him. The problem is it's a bit of an aging receiving core as we have it right now. So but it is a place that has money, so they because their money is a lot of it is tied, and they spent a lot of money last offseason, but they still have the quarterback under the deal. I'm not sure what their cap space is going to look like. So maybe they spent a bunch of it this year, but as the Eagles have shown us, there are ways around those cap constraints if you're willing to pay up. So I mean, it might work. Like that sounds good. There actually going to be a number of suitors for him, I think, considering it didn't end perfectly for him, but I imagine that type of talent, he's still a matchup problem. That type of player, I'm sure it's going to be a lot of people looking for. I'm thinking now of all the teams that could, with the way we pass the ball already. Now, they all other than New England.
Yes.
Who that?
San Francisco.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They're gonna be moving on from
Ayuk.
Yeah. Nah, he worked there. I think the thing about San Francisco that it might make AJ pretty valuable. Like it seems like they're skill players. They want him to be flexible and physical, like to be able to do a bunch of different things and be willing to get their nose dirty and go block a linebacker every now and then. I'm sure Kyle Shanahan will be excited about that monster. Getting in there and getting his hands on somebody, which is a weird thing to say about a receiver. It's like he'd be excited to see him block, but knowing Kyle Shanahan, he definitely would. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Every team that I think of is like, yeah, if they could afford him, they would want him. They would definitely trade for him. Like it feels like he would be a good fit in Buffalo, like that. They'd take the pressure off. They'd stop running man coverage against them if you had that option. And anybody with a quarterback, I'm sure they're willing to run him through the Kansas City situation. Well, I guess Mahomes may not be healthy, but that body type is so special and unique. Like Baltimore, they might have receivers that they like, but they don't got one like that.
Right.
There's a lot of teams. I guess the Falcons probably wouldn't be. That's another team that probably looking to bulk up this year, but they got London, who's a big body guy, but it's hard to imagine a team that if AJ wanted to go there would say, nah, we good.
Right. And then, of course, with San Francisco, I kind of imagine him as a better route running version of Debo when he has the ball in his hand.
Yeah, I think Debo is probably, yeah. I mean, that's fair. I think he's right. He has the ball in his hand. Debo just feels like a more, and I guess you kind of nailed it in your description. Debo feels like a running back that can play receiver. And AJ Brown kind of feels like a more of a pure receiver that can do special things with the ball in his hands. But it is similar.
Yeah, definitely.
I wouldn't imagine they would line him up in the backfield and hand it to him like they used to do with Debo. No. That's all. Yeah.
No, the wide back phenomenon was very short lived with Debo.
Yeah. I mean,
But
the Browns, everybody. I'm
yeah,
looking at the state now, trying to find a team that don't want him, like, or wouldn't want him. But I guess anybody who's not
everybody.
close. I'm sure he wants to go somewhere that he's pretty close. Pairing him up with Ted McMillan and replacing Leggett be pretty good. Tampa may not need him. They getting old. Yeah, he's that
Imagine
good.
if he went to Houston.
Oof. Him and Nico. Yeah. He would have fun with CJ Stroud. They're gonna have to protect.
It'd be closing time. It'd be closing time in Houston.
As long as that defense stays, which I have no reason to believe it won't be as good as it's been.
Yes, sir. Definitely. Now, of course, you mentioned Buffalo in terms of a spot potentially for AJ Brown, but we got to talk about Buffalo in the here and now. Of course, Josh Allen in the clutch was magical. 9 of 11, 103 yards, 1 touchdown, 5 rushes, 22 yards, and 1 TD. And even got carried to the goal line, 10 yards, by the way.
I hated that play.
And yeah, I know you did. Now, I will say, I do, listen to you and I do listen to Bomani Jones. And of course, he has a term when he talks about Josh Allen, he calls him the Big Galoot. Now, the Big Galoot.
That's one of them. Like we got other nicknames for him. I think only Bomani, so we call him the Menace too. Like in our text, like the Menace is out. that's what go back and forth. I guess he used the Big Galoot on the show, but yeah, the secret code name for him is the Menace.
Well, I will say this. I'm gonna stick with the Big Galoot because I love that one. Yeah, the Big Galoot was galooting in the fourth quarter. So, to me, how it's with all he was doing and things like that. Well, how impressive was his performance when they really needed him in the fourth quarter versus the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Yeah, I mean, it just was. The funny thing is, it's a different type of impressive. It was flawless, which is different from some of his other playoff performances, how they were impressive, where they were like beautiful to look at. Like this one wasn't one of those type of games, but it was like, damn, it was like a grown up, like that's what it felt like. While he was still, because sometimes the way that he plays is like it feels a little bit more out of control, which has negative connotation. I don't mean that at all, but it feels a little bit more artistic and like loosey goosey and like playmaking. This felt like, all right, I can't make a mistake, but I got to make these plays. And it felt like a mature performance, honestly.
Yeah, definitely was giving his team what he needed. And of course, he got carried like he was a king for 10 yards.
I think also just let me get this off my chest for a second. These tush pushes, man, like in that game, and people think, I guess it's nice that it's different teams doing it now, not just the Eagles, because people thought that or they would jump on like, you just hate the Eagles. Like, no, I don't hate the Eagles, man. Like the reason why it's frustrating to me is because that was one of the key moments and key plays in the game. And what I don't want is to be robbed of legendary moments because people tush pushing. Like I want to see them hand that thing off to somebody or do a sneak. And the final 10-yard carry tush push, like that's it. That's the highlight. That's the highlight. The game-winning touchdown for Josh Allen's immaculate performance in the wild card round in 2026 is a big dude carrying him. But whatever. All right, it's off my chest now. I'm good.
No, it reminded me of when I saw it. It reminded me of when Derrick Rose hit that one shot, and basically they lifted him up and kind of carried him across the court a little bit. That's what it reminded me of when I saw it.
Gosh, no, thank you.
But of course, another thing that kind of miffed me in this game, well, I'll say that was amazing in this game, was the way the Jaguars were running the football and then stopped. So do you have any explanation
I do,
why the Jags stopped running?
I went back and watched, and it seemed like a number of their plays were like the check with me type. And so they were coming to the line with 2 plays at least. And I think they saw the look, and Trevor Lawrence would take them out of the play. You could see him a couple of times tap his helmet, which normally means like to kill or can the first play and move to the second play. And I think a lot, and sometimes they wouldn't because they got the look that they wanted. So I think that's the answer. It may not be it's not a good answer, but I think you always want to be in the perfect play, and I think that's part of it. But honestly, like it's not as if they stopped him, no. Like we all were pounding on him for not running the ball enough, which I get, but it didn't feel like the Bills were really stopping them when in the second half much at all. So like I get the criticism because they were running for 7 yards a pop, but it's not like the offense was stifled.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But the thing I think about is if you ran the football more, you'd have less times that
Yeah.
Josh Allen had to touch it. So the big galoot would be sitting on the sideline, sucking water and figuring out what's going on. But we did have a comment, of course. Donnell Thomas stopped through, said dope stuff. Yeah. Appreciate it. Appreciate you for stopping through. Of course, he shouted you out too, by the way.
What up?
So, but yeah, let's see. Let's move on to the next question I had for you. I had another question, of course. Got to move on. Buffalo versus Denver, which that'll be taking place out at the new Mile High before they move to another stadium, which they're getting ready to talk about. But what do you think of just the Broncos defense, which is very, very stellar, runs a lot of man-to-man with Surtain and your favorite cornerback on the other side.
The pioneer.
Yeah, Riley Cooper.
Riley Moss, not Riley Cooper.
Riley Moss, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Riley Cooper is the opposite of Riley Moss. The white receiver who was using aggressive language at the country thing. My man, Riley Moss is the Rosa Parks of DBs, though. I know you watch my show, so you know that I'm defending Riley Moss. He gets a lot of attention because he plays opposite Surtain, but I think he's really good, despite the fact that, of course, you're not Patrick Surtain. If you're getting compared to him, it's going to be hard to live up to that. But he's an awesome player, and they ask him to play man to man, which I don't mind them asking him to play man that much. It should be illegal to ask anybody to play man as much as they ask that team to play man, but it's fine. They're good at it. The thing that throws me is I know where Patrick Surtain is. You know where Patrick Surtain is. They know where Patrick Surtain is. Why is the safety not where Riley is? That's what blows my mind. Safety in the middle of the field every game. What you doing? Go help my man. But this defense is awesome. They've fallen off a little bit. Like there've been some issues with their defense in the second, like last 4 or 5 games. They haven't been as good as they were early in the season. So, I think they got a depleted Bills team coming in. I think they should match up pretty well with the Bills. But Josh Allen, of course, you can't count him out. He's super special. I think the bigger question is, what is Sean Payton cooked up? Gave that man an extra week off. I don't know what he cooked up to go after this defense. And can Bo Nix consistently hit the open man deep downfield?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to talk about Bo Nix in a minute. But one thing I think he needs to be cooking up is that run game. Because Buffalo's run defense, 6.7 yards per carry in the playoffs. That's nasty work right there.
Yeah.
You're not going to win very many games giving up 6.7 yards per carry. And to me, Buffalo, I believe, not Buffalo, but Denver, actually, they can expose them running the football. So to me, you kind of take the ball a little bit more out of Bo Nix's hands and you put more of the running game on display, which has been pretty effective for Denver. And then you do 2 things. You take the ball out of Josh Allen's hands and you just physically pound the Buffalo Bills defense.
Yeah, the Buffalo Bills defense does a lot of disguise and smoke and mirror and blitzes off the edge. Like they're undermanned and they're using deception and stuff to get things done, which is fine. Like I understand that. It's like the opposite of speaking of AFC South, the Texas defense. They just line up. They ain't trying to trick nothing. Like we got advantages everywhere. We're gonna beat that ass. So the Bills are slightly different. So I think they're going to take chances to try to kill the run game early, which is going to open them up to opportunities in the pass game. There's something freeing. It's like we started with the 49ers. There's something freeing about knowing that you got some deficiencies. Like you can gamble a little bit, like you can throw caution to the wind. And I think that's probably going to decide the game. It's like when the Bills take gambles on defense, will the Broncos be able to make them pay?
Right. And, speaking of Bo Nix, he's hit the deep pass, he's hit the short pass, but will he hit an intermediate pass? That is a question I have because it just seems like he just avoids it at all costs.
I don't think he avoids it. I think Sean Payton avoids it for him. Yeah.
It's just, I don't understand it. I'm like, come on. I need you to, that's what kind of throws me off about Bo Nix. And of course, saying they would need maybe a drive to win this game, he's going to have to hit the deep pass, the intermediate, and the short pass. He can't just spin on one or the other. So if Sean Payton takes those reins off and allows him to throw those intermediate passes as well, do you have confidence that he can actually make those throws and actually win this game?
I do, actually. Yeah, I do. I'm not sure that I'm ready to pick them to win the game, but I do have confidence that Bo Nix is capable of doing that. He's been up and down this year generally. Like, it hasn't been and people say that progress isn't linear. So, like, you shouldn't expect him just to, like, a Madden, you better this year than you were last year, but you expected him to get a little bit better overall. I'm not sure that I would say that he's a little bit better, but I will say that it was the Chiefs? No, it wasn't the Chiefs game because it was the first Chiefs game. Was it that game? Nope, no, that wasn't it. It was the Packers game. It was the Packers game. That was the Packers game, was the one when Bo Nix, like, to me, I remember after that game during the show afterwards, it was like, we found the team. The team that separates himself from everybody else is the Broncos, that dominating D, because in that game, Bo Nix was not just hitting the deep pass and throwing screens, which is what they always want to do. He was hitting tight window throws, and it was fair. It was one game, but it was something we hadn't seen him do. And he did it in a way that gave me confidence to think that he could do it again. Of course, he didn't really do it much more for the rest of the season, but it's in there. It's in there, and it was against a good defense. That was the game that Micah got hurt in, so they did it mostly against Micah too.
Okay. All right. So we'll roll with that one.
Take a look at that game, man. You watch that game and just erase the name out your mind. Watch the way that quarterback play.
I'm trying, man, but I still remember seeing him down in the South playing for the Auburn Tigers before he ended up going to Oregon. And it's hard to erase it out. I'm trying though. But speaking of trying, the Super Bowl, to me, this is my Super Bowl pick, by the way. The Houston Texans went out there and just dominated the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. I mean, only allowed 6 points, scored 2 touchdowns, and just physically embarrassed them on the field. To me, that defense is Super Bowl worthy, but I want to ask you, do you think that they are a Super Bowl team in the Texans, that defense can carry them to the Super Bowl, a la the 2000 Ravens?
Yeah. Yes, I think so. The thing about the slight difference why the 2000 Ravens are better is, like, you could argue about which defense is better, but I'm not even interested in doing that. But the 2000 Ravens had a hell of a running attack too with Jamal Lewis. So, like, while they weren't scoring a lot of points, they had something to hang their hat on offense. And the Texans, I feel less confident about that, especially with Nico Collins out. The thing about CJ Stroud in the course of one game will make some of the more incredible throws. And then his last game, 5 fumbles, but, like, he made great throws. So will his mistakes be something that you can capitalize on or not? Because he'll make some impressive plays, but that defense, the best thing about having a defense like that is you're never going to be out of a game.
You're right. Now, you mentioned CJ Stroud. I do have some concerns with CJ Stroud, by the way. I wrote about this for the Sporting News, actually. So, the thing with me is, it just seems like he's super uncomfortable, that he has to see something a couple different times. And I get it, being uncomfortable because your offensive line has been inconsistent all year. I understand. But even on the touchdown pass to Christian Kirk, he threw that pass. He had to look at it twice to throw it to him, and he threw it behind him, and he had to dodge and make a guy miss to get in the end zone when it should have been a walk-in touchdown. So to me, it just seems like something is off about him. And I'm concerned about that, even though they still are my Super Bowl pick. out of the AFC. I'm very concerned about what is going on with CJ Stroud and what he's seeing, and especially this week with no Nico Collins versus the Patriots. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's fair assessment of what you see from CJ Stroud. But I could also show you 3 plays in that game where he ripped it on time and it was a perfect pass layered over the underneath players. So like I don't have I can't explain to you what's going on, but I see the same thing that you're seeing. Like there is some trepidation in his decision making.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Donnell actually has some of the same concerns. He said, "You already know my concerns with him." Yes, we've had a few talks about that one. So, but yeah, just let's see. Yeah, definitely want to. Definitely got some concerns about him and what else going to happen there. But of course, I do want to mention. And I got to mention that was quite possibly the last game you see Mike Tomlin coach in the NFL. Quite possibly.
Yeah.
So, in regards to Mike Tomlin, what did you think of him in Pittsburgh over the 19 years? And honestly, do you think how tough of a job do you think it's going to be for someone to follow behind?
Yeah. I mean, it's not they say you don't want to be the guy who follows the guy. In this place, it's multiplied by 3. Like, can you imagine that they went from Noel to Cowher to Tomlin? Now, do you? It's not only just to a new coach, it's to a new coach with an aging defense, and a high price aging defense, and no answer at the most important position. So I think the Steelers fans, I know I respect and appreciate that the Steelers never take a step back and are always looking to be competitive. But that's fine for in the building. I hope the fans have prepared themselves for taking a step back. So you wanted him out. He's out. There's a good chance that you're going to take a step back.
Yeah,
hopefully
definitely.
Spring forward eventually for you, for their sake.
Right. But the one thing I always used to say, I always used to call Bill Belichick the MacGyver of NFL coaches because he'd just be able to figure things out. But I dropped that mantle for him and I gave that mantle to Mike Tomlin because he always figured out a way to make this team competitive despite not having the pieces that he needed. Now, I think to me, more of it is on the general manager in the front office that he doesn't have the pieces that he always needs. But that's just me because you didn't have a second wide receiver. You traded George Pickens when you really probably didn't have to. And you could have had George Pickens on one side and DK Metcalf on the other, which I will say would be entertaining on the field and probably some off the field as well. But
DK not climbed the stands. He swung in the stands this year. That's like, I know the guy maybe said some stuff that on the street would get you slapped in the face, but we was at the stadium and you combine that ingredient with George Pickens, it may not have gone as well as it did for either team this season.
Right. You got one with that sometimes has issues with anger, and you got the other that's unpredictable. Boy, oh boy, that would have been a good reality TV show.
Yeah, it would have been. Absolutely.
All right, last question I do have kind of in regards to the Texans, kind of swinging back to them. Drake May going against this Texans defense. Boy, oh boy, I am so ready to see this matchup because Drake May and the Patriots have been talked about, this team and what they've done and who they haven't faced and who they have faced versus this Texan defense. They can basically get pressure with 4 guys. They don't need the blitz, none of those things. They got Will Anderson on one side. They've got Daniil Hunter on the other. They've got 2 really, really good corners in Lassiter and Stingley Jr. They've got Jalen Petrie in the slot. They got Bullock as a safety that can just cover the whole field. I mean, anything they got, they got everything you need for a Super Bowl defense. So what's your level of interest or concern, I should say, about Drake May in this one? Because they didn't look necessarily great versus the Chargers, and this defense is a whole bunch better. Oh, and also, by the way, Will Campbell did have a few issues with Owe, and I will say Will Anderson Jr. and Daniil Hunter are better than Owe.
Yeah, I think obviously the fact of the matter is you don't even have to get into Will Campbell or Drake May struggling against the Chargers. It's a long day for anybody against that Texas defense. So like the
Mhm.
best offense in the league gonna have a long day. We saw Josh Allen against them at one point this season, and it got bad. He had like seven. He was sacked like 7 times, right? Something like that. Something
Mhm.
crazy.
A
So
lot.
it's yeah, it's gonna be a long day. It's a tough challenge. The thing that I saw that would give me some encouragement is Drake May. I feel like his superpower this year has kind of been that deep ball accuracy. And as good as the Texans defense is, they don't like eliminate the big play through the passing game. I think they're like middle of the pack as far as 20-yard completions are concerned. And that might be partly because of because people might try that more often against them, but it's a
Mhm.
spot where they could potentially make some plays. And I think it's the only place, honestly. I don't imagine this team driving down the field on the Texans consistently. They're gonna have to hit some big shots and max protect and try to create a matchup that you like and take those shots. Um, Wait for third and short and take a shot. Like if
Mhm.
I were the Patriots, that's what I would be trying to do is finding opportunities to try to create big plays. I'd be less concerned about converting first downs because I don't fear giving the ball back to that offense. I'd be more concerned with creating big plays.
Yeah, definitely. Now you did say with the 49ers about being aggressive offensively and taking shots and things like that. That is exactly how I think the Houston Texans offense should do. They should be more aggressive. Their defense, nobody's
Yeah.
scoring on them. So why not be aggressive and like you were against the Chargers in the first half and first quarter of that game? That's
Yeah.
what I've been screaming that all year long. I just
Yeah.
don't understand why.
I mean, I think that part of the reason is you don't want to put any more pressure on that defense than's already there. And I also
Mhm.
think they don't want to. You be more aggressive. You're likely to like 3 and out is a possibility, which is pretty as a defense that sucks. When you have a good defense, you want to play like field position. You want to stick them back deep
Mhm.
and make them try to um, drive the field on you. And also like you don't want to turn the ball over. I think is part of it is you're just waiting for them to give you a short field, for them to like get a 3 and out with them backed up or create a turnover. And
Mhm.
I don't know that I disagree with you. Like I think it's a fine strategy, but if I were to say why not to do it, like we go back to those Ravens teams. That's how they played.
Mhm.
And then in the Super Bowl,
Right.
they exploded for a bunch of points. They're like, we're gonna run this ball, not gonna make any mistakes. If you blow it, that's fine. But we're gonna keep running this ball and dare you to try to beat us on offense and strip sack, fumble, interception, something like that will set
Mhm.
them up to score.
Definitely. Well, we'll see what happens in that game. Of course, we got one other game to talk about, one other team to talk about. That would be the Rams. Of course, they're taking on the Bears. And I will tell you, the Rams are my other Super Bowl pick.
Yeah.
So, the Rams to the Super Bowl, I will say this, they did get you a little nervous last week versus the Carolina Panthers, but they pulled it out. So, um, do you still think they can pull it together to potential? Do you think they can pull it together to make it to the Super Bowl, or do you have a lot of like I don't know about them?
I mean, I think they definitely could pull it together and get to the Super Bowl, but I also have some I don't know about them. Like they looked the part, and I think we all wanted to buy in, and they would go on. They went on a long like win streak in the middle of the season, but they ended the season with a number of losses that I think they shouldn't have. So, like, I'll excuse them for the Seahawks game a little bit. Seahawks is a good team, and they had like some ridiculous call, the 2 point conversion stuff. But like
Mhm.
the Falcons game, like you gotta destroy the Falcons in that spot. That Panthers loss, not the playoff one, the one earlier in the season, and then they had tight games against teams. It's just they aren't as good as we talk about them, or at least to speak for myself, is at a certain point this year,
Mhm.
I was like, that's the only team that looks like a championship team. And then I watch them and see that they don't always play like a championship team. So are they
Mhm.
capable? By all means. Like they could beat anyone offensively. They might be the best offense left. Like they run the ball with two backs incredibly well.
Mhm.
They got Puka, who's the best receiver in football right now, and Devontae, of course. And the tight ends are very good. And of course, Matt Stafford can make all types of throws. I still get excited for his no looks across the middle.
Yeah.
Those are incredible. But he also turned the ball over sometimes. So, and their secondary is challenged on defense. So this team is not perfect, and they're imperfect in ways that allows other teams to get back in the game, unfortunately. So yeah, they could get it done, but I also could see them losing.
Definitely. Now let's get into those Rams DBs. Now,
Mhm.
boy, oh boy, that was interesting. I would say the Carolina Panthers gave them a little bit of work, and those DBs have been getting some work all season. It just hasn't been talked about because the offense has been playing well and the front seven has been playing well. But in the playoffs, you can get exposed definitely by but any play can expose you, especially with their weakness being there and all the teams actually being good in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So the Bears have weapons.
Right.
The Panthers had weapons. They got at them, but the Bears have weapons. They have Loveland. They got Burden. They got DJ Moore. They got a few guys that can make things happen. What's your level of concern for those Rams DBs versus Caleb Williams and the Bears?
Yeah, I think if you're a Rams fan, you're hoping that the combination of Young and Verse and Turner are gonna limit Caleb's freestyle and creativity stuff because of their athleticism up front. And you don't want him to buy time and leave Durant and Forbes in coverage any longer than they have to be. So I think the scheme stuff that we have with Ben Johnson, that rushing attack has been really impressive. It didn't work out well last week, but he still schemed open plenty of opportunities for Loveland. And I think that's one thing is when they find something that works, they're going to keep pushing that button. So there are spots to hit this defense to take advantage of this Rams defense. Will the Rams be able to adjust quickly to address those spots and put out these fires? Because that's what we saw last week. It felt like the Packers couldn't figure out how to do anything with Loveland in the second half. So yeah, there's some weaknesses. If they're going to take advantage of them. Will you be able to address it quickly enough? Send help that way. Change the coverage without exposing anybody else, I think is the question. Or the other question is is your front just so good that it'll render everything else kind of meaningless?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Now, of course, Rams offense versus the Bears defense. The Bears are opportunistic, but they aren't necessarily a great defense when you don't turn the ball over. Stafford, he can get hot, but he can turn the ball over as well. And then, of course, you mentioned Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, who are some monstrous weapons when they get rolling. This offense, like you mentioned, can be one of the best offenses, when they're really cooking. So versus Bears defense, boy, oh boy. And just talking about the Bears and their style of liking to come back, this could be a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, it's a scary proposition, I think, for Dennis Allen and his defense. I've liked the corners for the Bears this year. And what was surprising to me last week was I really loved the corners for the Panthers. And I guess I assumed that because the Rams have done so much 11 and 12 personnel and found ways to attack the middle of the field and stay away from the outside, I assumed that with those corners, they would continue to do that. They didn't. They gave them opportunities to make plays, and they did last week. My assumption, again, this week, and the corners for the Bears aren't as good as the corners for the Panthers, so they may not, they won't try to avoid them. But my concern for the Bears, honestly, is there are a ton of matchup opportunities. I don't think that they have a big advantage anywhere defensively. So it's going to be about rising to the moment, I think. And honestly, more than anything, is being good in situations. So one big situation is the red zone. I think if they can force field goals or maybe force them to go for it on fourth down, those are the situations. You can't give up big plays. You're gonna have to make them earn it. That, and figure out how you can slow down the run and also not put yourself in position to give up big plays, because you got to stop them in the red zone and force field goals, because it gets easier to play defense down there.
Right. Now I will say Kevin Byard is probably going to have a little bit of deja vu in this game because he did pick off Matt Stafford when he was a member of the Tennessee Titans and running back for a touchdown. They playing on Monday Night Football. So he might have a little bit of a deja vu in this game. He is the interceptions leader in the NFL, by the way. So yeah, so crazy. 8 years apart, I believe is what it was when he did it for the Tennessee Titans and then also doing it for the Chicago Bears.
Wow. That's dope. I didn't realize that. I remember when he did it for the Titans. That's impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a really, really good guy. I got to talk to him a few times. Nice. And lastly, I gotta mention Caleb Williams. I mean, Caleb Williams always makes one throw that you're like, wow, what is that? Now, I'm not going to say it's the best throw I've ever seen or any of those things, but there are some amazing throws, like an off-platform throw down the sideline on 4th down when you really need it. I'm sitting there thinking, did he really just do that? He really just walked in the air and threw the football. Do you look forward to those throws that he makes?
Or he does them so often too. Yeah, absolutely. He does them so often, and it's so impressive. It's outstanding. He actually did a better job of like playing in structure this week too. Like he's been better at that this season, but there have been times where he's had a hard time with it. He still isn't all that accurate or consistently accurate, I guess, because it's crazy to say he's not accurate when you see some of the throws that he's made in these 3 Packers games alone. So like he has that accuracy, but sometimes it's a little bit inconsistent, and he has some sort of switch in his brain that does not allow him to feel pressure. Like I think lots of guys say that they're calm and say that they're comfortable in those moments, but it just feels so real with him. So they call him the Iceman, and it sure feels true.
Definitely does. I mean, I look forward to that game. It's going to be cold. The Rams are not a cold weather team. Matt Stafford has something going on with his hand. We'll see if that takes an effect there. And just the Bears, the monsters of the Midway. And, of course, the fans have been clamoring for a winner there for a while. And now you can't tell Bears fans really anything because they're flying high right now. So
good for them. I don't think the weather is going to be as much of a factor as you may think, or not you, but people may think, because they're coming from. I mean, Matt Stafford played in that division for a while. He's comfortable there, and it was the Eagles game last year where it was snowing, and they could have beaten the Eagles in that snowy game last year. If you remember in the playoffs, right? Wasn't that? That was like the only close game I think the Eagles had in their playoff run last year was the Rams in a snowy game. So yeah, I think, it feels good if you're a Midwestern Chicago Bears fan to say that them pretty boys from LA not going to be able to come out here and handle this. But yeah, I think y'all not getting no cold weather advantage if you think that's what's happening.
Yeah, we did have one other comment. Bears going to the Super Bowl, and yes, this is a hot take. Well, I will say, that's a lot of people have said that. I will say that I'm holding on to my Rams pick, the Rams and the Texans. And I will tell you, Domonique, I know I've texted you about this before, asking you about telling you about the Texans and telling you about the Texans defense carrying them to the Super Bowl. So this isn't a hot take. If anyone's listening, this is not a hot take for me. I've been on the Texans bandwagon for going to the Super Bowl for a while now. This is just me saying it on the air now.
Yeah, I was that is true. I have the text messages to prove it. I was on Get Up last week, or it might have been Sports Center last week, saying like before this game was like, I feel like we don't appreciate how good the Texans defense is because they're the Texans. And I was saying, like, just close your eyes and imagine if this was a Cowboys defense playing like that. Like if there were any of those marquee franchises that we talk about, this was like the Ravens defense, like the story behind it will be entirely different. And I think it's not fair, but like the way that they play, man, it's so fun. It's so fun to watch. So violent and so fun. I feel like they should be throwing flags for everything that they do. I didn't know they still let us play like that, but it's great.
Well, as a former college defensive back, I absolutely love it. I know as a defensive back, you love it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. That pass rush. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Man, let me just get a couple plays lined up there, and I bet you I can probably get an interception.
I can survive. They get a sack, I'll survive a play. I don't know about what's gonna happen at back end, but they're gonna save me.
That's right. Well, Domonique, thank you for coming on the show, breaking down the playoffs, man. For those listening and watching, if you haven't, I need you to check out the Domonique Foxworth show with Domonique Foxworth, Charlie. You got Bill comes on the show.
We have
the
Bill on Mondays. Bill and the Bilk. Yeah, we got Mina Kimes on Fridays, and normally Jeff Saturday. We had our guy Jason.
Marcus
Goff.
Spears on recently.
Marcus Spears. Yeah, so please join us.
Yes, sir. Definitely check out Domonique Foxworth, the Domonique Foxworth show, and then check him out on Get Up as well. Of course, I'm Mike Patton, the host of the show. You can check me out on all the listening platforms, Touring the AFC South. Also, you can, of course, find me on the artist for me on his Twitter at MikePatton82. And you can also find me on Instagram at the CHA and the THE _general_MP. Go ahead and follow, subscribe, click the bell so that way you don't miss any episodes. Thank you all for tuning into this episode of Touring the AFC South. We're out.